All right. Are we ready?
Think we are ready. And I'll be, Rachel had a conflict this morning, so I'll be doing the roll call.
Okay. All right. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning.
All right. Well, it's a minute after 11, so we'll go ahead and call the October 5th KIPDA Regional Planning Council meeting to order. And with that, we'll go ahead and do the roll call.
All right. And I am in the process of updating our council member list here. So if I miss somebody, also Rachel usually does this. So if I miss somebody and you're here, just, call your name out. So we've got Honorable Jerry Summers, Mr. Keith Griffey. I believe I saw you in there.
I'm here.
Honorable John Logan Brent, Miss Jody Rucker, Miss Emily Liu,
Here.
Mr. Mike King, Mr. Brian Davis, Mr. Jim Urban,
Here.
Honorable David Vogel, Mr. Ryan Lipke,
Here.
Honorable Dan Eisen, Honorable John Riley, Miss Julie Sweezy, and Honorable Todd Pollock. All right, did I miss anybody there?
I think you got everybody.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Our next item of business is the minutes from the July 12th council meeting. You should have got a copy of those in your email invite to this meeting. So if you have any corrections or additions, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
All right,
I'll
we have a
second.
motion. All right, we have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Griffey, second by Miss Emily Liu. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign for opposed. Hearing none, the motion passes. The minutes for the July 12th meeting are approved. Okay, that puts us into our KIPDA updates. KIPDA staff.
Yeah, so I believe Jennifer Wilson, my colleague in the SED division, she's going to give a brief update on the economic resiliency plan that she has been working on.
All right.
Jennifer, are you there?
Yes. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we hear you.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ryan. We have been working on a pandemic recovery and resiliency plan for the KIPDA region, which was funded by a grant from the ADA. The plan analyzes the negative impacts of the pandemic on the region's economy, tourism and hospitality industry, social services, infrastructure, and other areas of life. It summarizes the financial and other relief that became available and makes recommendations for strategies to continue the recovery and become better prepared for any future similar events. It's based on research into regional data, as well as surveys and conversations we conducted with various communities around the region. I've asked Ryan to attach the current draft of the plan to the follow-up email that he will send after today's meeting in case any of you would like to review it, which we would love to have you do. And we would welcome your comments, especially with respect to the recommendations and specific action items that you would like to see supported in the region. It's our hope that it would lead to funding opportunities for these specific strategies and action items. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer. And yeah, as Jennifer mentioned in my follow-up email, I'll be sending out the most recent draft of that resiliency plan. So if anybody has any feedback or anything, we would love to hear from you on that. As far as other updates, I don't really have anything too specific. We're working on finishing up a big project in Bedford, their wastewater improvements project, which should finally be done in early next year. It's been going on for about, 5 years, would you say, Felicia?
At least.
Yeah. And then, actually following that as well, I guess just a quick update for folks who don't know, Felicia Harper is now our SED division director. Most of y'all probably know her from previous RPC meetings from her work in Bullitt County. But yeah, so we welcome her as well.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see everybody.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thanks, Ryan.
I mean, you really haven't missed a beat because you're around the other side of it, but now you're back.
Now I'm
And
here.
it's good to have you. So
Thank you.
Yep.
first I thought you were leaving the state or something.
No, no, I wouldn't do that.
Well, never know.
Yeah, I know.
Glad to have you back.
Thank
You
you.
have anything to add,
Yeah.
Felicia?
I do not. Just look forward to working with everybody again.
Justin, you got anything?
Other than I'm just really in all the cleaner water program projects right now. We just did all the round 2, finalizing those. We have our we have our Oldham County Water Management Council meeting tomorrow and Henry County tomorrow, and then we'll be wrapping up Louisville Metros on Friday. So then next week we'll be approving all the fiscal year 23 water and wastewater and stormwater rankings for the region, and then we'll be moving steam ahead with doing all of the cleaner water projects. And I got Ryan assisting me with all those. So we have well over 50 projects that we're about to tackle here. So
Wow.
cleaner water is definitely taking a lot of time, but yeah, I'm just really thrilled to have Felicia back. She's really doing a great job getting acclimated again to everything. And we got a full team here at KIPDA now. It's a great team, and we're doing really good work. So yeah, just anything we can help you all out with, just please let us know.
All right, thanks. Dustin, do you have anything from staff?
I just want to say really quickly, we're wrapping up our comprehensive economic development strategy as well for the region. And so look out for a public comment period that's coming out, I think, end of October. So that will be heading your way soon.
All right. A lot of work going on down there. Thank you, guys.
Mhm.
So is that all the KIPDA updates then?
I believe so. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go on then to the next agenda item, which is our county quarterly updates. And we'll go ahead and start with Bullitt. If you're ready, Keith.
I'm sorry. I've got about 4 things going. I just finished an interview with Channel 41 and they're still sending me some stuff. As far as the planning, Justin was out here last week. I think it was last week, and we wrapped up our water meetings. We approved going forward with what was going on there. We've had some. The lieutenant governor was here last week. Basically from the governor's office, giving us some grant money for a couple of road projects, broadband project, and then also a water project in Mount Washington as well. So that was what the follow-up with Channel 41 was today, just trying to go over that. So we're moving forward. That was kind of a boost just to get us everything kind of moving in the right direction. So that's about where we are as of today. The judge is out of town for the next few days. He's working on a lot of different things with on the revenue side. So we're trying to hold down the fort on the infrastructure side here.
All right. Thanks, Keith. Next county, we'll go to Emily in Louisville Metro. Unmute yourself, Emily.
Sorry about that.
It's okay, thanks.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. One thing I would like to just mention is not just do Metro government did, but I think a lot of planners is aware that we just hosted the regional planning conference called OKI, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. It's very successful, very good attendance, good session. So Brian Davis is president of the Kentucky chapter of American Planning Association, spent a lot of time, many of our staff involved in that. So it was good. And also at the same time, Louisville Metro government, we're doing several things right now in addition to the record kind of development activity. We are looking at the zoning reform, as I mentioned earlier, many years. We've been doing this for 2.5 years, actually. Professor Arnold was involved early on too. I saw him on the agenda with the zoning reform. So Tony, hi. So the first phase has been adopted. It's really good. We got a lot of support from Metro Council, advocacy group, and a lot of professors in University of Louisville are really involved and help us. And we are in the second phase now. The first phase got 7 items adopted. The most important one is ADU, accessory dwelling unit. Now you can do it in Jefferson County by right instead of going conditional use permit, all of that. You can have urban agriculture regardless of the size. If you have 5,000 acres, you want to do agriculture in Louisville, you can do that by right. There's many other things. And also early this year, the childcare ordinance passed, which make it much easier for people to operate childcare either in their home or as a small scale operator. It used to be you just prohibit in residential period. All of those has been done. So we are in the second phase. Second phase, we're focusing on still housing, missing middle housing. We've been having these regional public engagement across the county in libraries. You see some hands-on approach like doing Legos, ask people to help us building neighborhood. And so that's going on as well. And also at the same time, there's other, I'm talking about mostly planning project. So after the comprehensive plan was adopted about 3 years ago, we're looking at 2 new form districts. And one is centered on the urban center neighborhood. The other one is like conservation form district. Those are going out. So we are likely to add 2 new form districts to our zoning ordinance, which has 12 right now. So we may have 2 more. And also Foy Fork overlay, Metro Council requested planning design to revisit that. And for those of you who've been here a long time, you probably aware, but back 30 years ago, there was a Foy Fork overlay in place, and they downzone like 15 square miles of county from R4 single family, just about 4 units per acre, to RR, which is 1 unit per 5 acre. That was about 30 years ago. And they want to visit that again. The other thing that's going on, that's going to Metro Council in the next couple months, we all know during pandemic, restaurants suffered because a lot of people just don't go to restaurant, and the city, many cities across the country starting doing that, allowing the restaurant to have outdoor dining without worrying about all these zoning red tapes, right? You can have a dining area outside. You don't have to worry about additional parking requirement. You don't have to worry about, being a certain zoning district to serve liquor outside. So it's temporary relief to restaurants to serve alcohol or food outside. Now, Metro Council is looking at permanently changing that. So we have a draft proposal listed in our website. If you're interested, you can see. So we'll basically codify that and make it permanent. So that's hopefully will make it easier for restaurant, because people still prefer to eat outside, even we're much relaxed now with COVID. So that's something that can experience it last 2.5 years. People seem to like it. So not much negative comments on those. We're going to make it permanent. So that's kind of the big things that we're looking at right now. By the way, the Topgolf that was approved 4 or 5 years ago was very controversial. 500 people showed up. Some opposed, some support. Finally passed. It was entirely in court. I just heard they're going to open like before Thanksgiving. I'm very excited about that. So for those who are Region 1 planners, I'm going to use our Region 1 fund probably doing our activity there. So stay tuned.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. Move on to the next county, Oldham County. Jim.
Hey, good morning, everybody. We don't have any current revisions going on to either our comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, or subdivision regulations. We had quite an active last couple of years. And the most recent thing we did was adding a new zoning classification called PND, Planned Neighborhood Development, in anticipation of a new urbanism style development at exit 14. They've yet to bring in the application. They've used DPZ as their planning consultant, and they've been working in January to be 3 years on their master plan and smart code. And we anticipate that they'll bring that in pretty soon. Some of you may have seen that Baptist Hospital announced there'll be a hospital as part of that area. It's really 3 of the 4 quadrants at exit 14. As far as building permits in that category, single family has been down quite a bit. Everybody with interest rates going up, the production builders are still pretty busy out there. But one of the things that really has gone up is pools, additions, and remodels. Very similar to what happened during COVID. We saw a lot of people just investing in their current homes, and they're doing it again with interest rates where they are, and people not understanding or knowing whether they could buy another house in another location if they sold theirs. We are in the process of installing countywide broadband. AT&T has a contract with the county. I'm not really well versed on that whole subject. I haven't been intimately involved in it, but AT&T had 2 years to get it all installed countywide, and they're diligently working on kind of the low-hanging fruit, if you will, the areas where it is easily available. And I think they have about 18 months left in their contract to get it installed. A lot of road construction going on. I-71, you've probably seen just recently, the new ramps at mile marker 20 are going to start next week. And of course, I-71 widening project is going on up to exit 14 from the Gene Snyder. They're doing the engineering from exit 14 to exit 18 currently. So we'll see a lot of construction going on. And I went to Lexington the other day and noticed the whole state of Kentucky, I think, is getting repaving and new road projects going on. It's pretty exciting. Anybody that watches the news on a regular basis, we've been in the news several times with controversial things like a gun club that was denied by the Board of Adjustments for conditional use, outdoor skeet shooting and clay target shooting. Solid waste transfer station was in the news. It went through the technical review committee, and they just yesterday withdrew that application, so they're not moving forward. And then we had a subdivision that was fairly controversial out in the L'Esprit area. It was denied by the planning commission, and again in the news. So where we didn't have any lawsuits up until about 9 months ago, we've got 4 going on. So it's kind of interesting. So that's my quick report from Oldham County.
All right, thanks, Jim. And you can keep those lawsuits over there.
I try to not have any, but these were just again controversial things. The gun club chose not to appeal the decision of the Board of Adjustments, which was wise, but there's 2 subdivisions, and then there are 2 individuals that are suing. One is alleging that our building inspectors didn't do an appropriate job inspecting for the drainage around their house when it was completed, and now they got water in the basement. But that's going to be interesting because they added landscaping and pavers and a retaining wall that's probably caused the problem. But they're thinking we need to pay for it. So,
well, good luck with them.
Thanks.
So looks like Shelby County is the only last county that's on here, and that's for me to do. So I'll hit on Shelby County real quick. I don't have a whole lot to report. But the city of Simpsonville is updating their comprehensive plan or preparing a comprehensive plan for the city. And they just had a public input session. They actually held it at the Simpsonville Fall Festival. So they did get, I think, a pretty decent amount of turnout with people giving input during that festival at that time, which I thought was going to be interesting to see how many actually stopped and took the time to provide their input. But from what it sounds like there's a second steering committee coming up here in a couple weeks to kind of start going over the proposed goals and objectives. Taylor Seifker Williams is preparing that plan for the city. So it's still in the early stages, but that is moving along. Highway 53 Mount Eden Road between US 60 and I-64 is scheduled to be finally completed in next month in November. So that's a road project that we're all looking forward to being over with out here. It's been it'll be nice when it's done, but beforehand and through construction, it's been a nightmare. So just a lot of traffic and a lot of congestion. So But other than that, I don't have much more to report on Shelby County. We're just staying busy with development. I'm not going to go into all of it with you. So I see John Parks on here. John, do you have anything, Deputy Judge for Shelby County? You have anything for county updates that you want to add for Shelby?
No, I heard the tail end of what you said. We're just moving along and like you said, 53 is just about done. Everybody is happy that it's getting to that point. So appreciate everything y'all are doing.
All right, thanks, John. So that wraps up the county updates for this item. So the next
Hey,
will be
Ryan.
any announcements.
Sorry, this is Rachel Casey with the
sorry,
Louisville
Rachel.
Metro. No, you're fine.
Yes.
You're fine. I just wanted to give just a couple key updates on some
Okay.
long range planning stuff that's happening in Jefferson County that I just wanted to tout. Mainly that since the last meeting, we received over $20 million in federal grants from the RAISE grant. $15 million plus a $10 million match, some of which is coming through KIPDA from STBG. So we're thankful for that. And so that's going to be on 9th Street. That's a $26 million project to design and build the Reimagine 9th Street project. And then there's also a $5 million planning grant for the Broadway All the Way plan that was completed earlier this year. So we'll be working on those over the next 5 or 6 years as we get those federal dollars rolling in. So that was just the main thing I wanted to point out, because I thought that would be of interest to everyone, especially in a KIPDA context, since KIPDA helped us provide those matching funds.
Oh yeah, nice. Looking forward to seeing that stuff move forward. All right, that covers then the updates. Let's go on to announcements. And Brian?
All right. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of announcements. Felicia, do you have any additional announcements or anything you'd like to cover?
I don't.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on then. So our next item is our guest speaker, and that is Mr. Tony Arnold, a professor of law at University of Louisville, and he's going to talk to us about adaptive and inclusive watershed management. Mr. Arnold, welcome, and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. So I know lots of folks here. I teach in both the Brandeis School of Law and the Department of Urban and Public Affairs at University of Louisville. So in the Masters of Urban Planning program, Sustainability program, and PhD program in Urban and Public Affairs. And so I appreciate that KIPDA definitely keeps our graduates busy, but also thankful to Jim for at least recently keeping our law students, our graduates of our law school busy as well. So I noted the litigation that you were talking about there, and I direct the Resilience Justice Project. And so I'm going to be talking today about a project that we're working on with the Metropolitan Sewer District, the Louisville Metro Parks, Kentucky Waterways Alliance, the Nature Conservancy, the Kentucky African American Heritage Museum, and some other community and governmental partners on the Mill Creek watershed planning process in Southwest Louisville. And it's an example of integrating resilience, justice and equity, and inclusive community engagement into planning. And in terms of resilience, we're talking about both sort of social ecological resilience, this idea that our environments and our society are interconnected, and we are encountering unprecedented change and unexpected disturbances. Whether we talk about climate change, unprecedented flooding, heat, but other things, economic shocks, political and social changes, demographic changes, and so on and so forth, but also the resilience of communities. And so one of the key pieces on that is that I'm going to touch on is the importance of green and blue infrastructure. I know that Ryan had asked me if I maybe might touch on that a little bit, but basically the idea that resilience,
justice or equity and inclusive community engagement should be integrated into planning. It applies to all planning, not just watershed planning. That could be land use planning, infrastructure planning, transportation, any of that. But in the watershed context, what we know from study after study is that plans are less successful if they lack adaptive features, adaptive features to build resilience, and if they fail to address environmental, racial, and social injustices or inequities, and that they're more successful if they do so. And so over many years, I've worked in sort of adaptive watershed planning. I've worked in environmental justice, and I've worked in the area of sort of resilience and resilience in planning, resilience in governance. And so all that came together in so creating the Resilience Justice Project. And we did a study a number of years ago dealing with the Anacostia River in Washington, D.C. and Maryland that ended up really influencing how the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers planners went about watershed planning with a more resilience focus and a more justice or equity focus. And then I was a visiting scholar out at UCLA and working with some community groups in Los Angeles where they were dealing with sort of the planning that was going on for the restoration and revitalization of the Los Angeles River. And again, what we were looking at is this sort of intersection of resilience and justice, and observing that a lot of those planning efforts were producing gentrification and displacement. And that was causing some really significant changes that, in which there were both improvements, but also, effects that were not intended, socioeconomic effects, and so forth. And so, the MSD reached out and asked, if we might join with them to sort of integrate these elements of resilience, justice, and inclusive community engagement into the Mill Creek watershed planning process. And so Mill Creek is southwestern Louisville. It's a watershed in an area of Louisville that's been ignored quite a bit. And I think a lot of folks in the community feel like they've got their sort of own identity and so forth. And it is a very diverse watershed. It includes a number of really low income neighborhoods that are a high percentage of people of color. It includes low to moderate income neighborhoods that are primarily white, and it includes a few above median income neighborhoods. And it's so it starts up Rubbertown and Shively and Iroquois Park and drains all the way down out by the LG&E Mill Creek Power Plant. And it's an area that has, two major industrial areas, Superfund sites, two LG&E power plants. So, it's an area where there are a lot of environmental justice issues as well. And as you probably y'all are already noticing, experiencing, there's a lot of interest at the federal level in things like climate change resilience and adaptation and environmental justice, and paying attention to those. So this part of what was going on here is this helped make MSD and the partners more competitive for this funding for under Clean Water Act Section 319 non-point source pollution funding for watershed planning. And but already it is increasing the engagement in watershed planning, kind of in ways that needed to happen. So their last big watershed plan that MSD did was Middle Fork of Beargrass Creek, and they have the Beargrass Creek Alliance. They have very engaged community and so forth. And that's not really the reality of the Mill Creek watershed. And so part of the idea is how can you really reach out and engage people inclusively. And so, and the other thing is that we know that
So one of the other things that's going on is that there's a sort of parallel project called the Mill Creek Greenway project, in which there's going to be restoration of Mill Creek from Sylvania Park all the way down to the outflow into the Ohio River. And there's going to be a greenway that's going to be constructed. It's going to take years, maybe probably decades. But this is a lot of this is being funded by settlement funds from LG&E from their coal ash pollution litigation settlement. And so one of the things that we know about both resilience and justice is that green and blue infrastructure is essential, and that green gentrification and displacement is a major vulnerability. So we are paying attention to that. So what are we doing in this process? So first of all, the Resilience Justice Project. So this, I have student fellows who work with me. I've got a class of students. My water resources class are working on this. So I've got sort of a whole team. I've got a PhD student in urban and public affairs who's co-teaching the water resources class with me and a part of our team as well. And so what we're doing is, first of all, we have created we've created a document that suggests some principles and processes that integrate environmental justice and resilience justice into planning, a basically kind of framework type of document. And we've shared that with all the partners. And so with both the MSD's watershed planning process and Parks Greenway planning process, this has changed to some degree how they're going about the planning. So one thing I think is even just language. So early on in a meeting, somebody said, well, we need to create a community group and give them things to do. And we sort of pushed back and said, that's not inclusion and that's not justice. Instead, maybe what we should think about is how we can support people in the community forming their own group and helping to facilitate the things that they want to do. So less top down and more bottom up. Because again, the data shows that if it's really top down driven, there's not a lot of long-term engagement and long-term support. So the first thing that we've done is put together this framework. The second thing we've done is what's called an environmental justice audit. And so this is, we've used a tool, basically a framework that I developed, published a number of years ago in an American Planning Association publication about how to integrate environmental justice and planning together. And so what we've done is we've gone through and systematically looked at both environmental conditions and other community conditions, economic, demographic, the history and so on and so forth of these neighborhoods in the Mill Creek watershed, to look at, sort of inequities. Where do we see the inequities? Where are some of the touch points of concern? Some of which are very much focused on water quality in Mill Creek and sort of watershed health, and some of which aren't. Some of which deal more with things like air quality or economic development. Dixie Highway is clearly an issue, and we've got some efforts underway to address Dixie Highway. But how is that going to intersect with the other things we're doing in the Mill Creek? So we've put together that audit as a sort of comprehensive, snapshot assessment of conditions and issues. What we're doing now is what's called the Mill Creek Community Study. So what we're doing is we're reaching out, again, focused on inclusion and diversity, to interview as many members of the Southwest Louisville community as possible. So the study is composed of semi-structured. It's a semi-structured study, which is composed of
in-depth, open-ended questions. And so the idea here is to move away from kind of the survey approach in which the survey designer has some things in mind and people have a limited menu of options, and instead to listen to and hear people express what they want, what they see their issues are, what they see their concerns and needs are, and what they would like to see happen in their community in their own words. So it's qualitative research methods. And then what we do is go through all of the transcripts of the interviews, code them for themes and patterns, synthesize and integrate, and produce an overall report. But what we've found over the years in using this research method is people really love the opportunity to talk, to share what's on their mind, and for somebody to hear them, and it be pretty open-ended, and so that then they've got lots of different ways that they can take that. So we found that to be a really useful method, both for contribution to the planning process, but also for engaging people. People feel more engaged. So we did a study like this a few years ago in the Parkland neighborhood in West Louisville. And then, sort of out of that came a variety of efforts to get funding to basically reopen the Parkland Neighborhood Library and also the Parkland Community Plaza Project. So we sort of think that this approach is useful and works well. The interviews we estimate take about 45 minutes, so that's the official line. I will tell you, so far they're taking about 30 minutes, so it's not especially burdensome, and we do them online on Teams as much as possible. We are available to meet with people in person if that's really their preference, but we would prefer to do them online because that automatically generates transcript for us, and it makes it easier. We don't have to find places and schedule travel time and so forth. Everybody can kind of just plug in from their homes or offices or wherever. So those interviews, I think, will tell us a lot, and I think they will also start the foundations of sort of community organizing, community groups that are really interested in the Mill Creek watershed and will be involved in the implementation over time. And then the other, the fourth thing that we're doing is policy analyses. So we're looking at various public policies. So obviously MSD's policies, everything related to water quality and stream condition and watershed conditions, but also Louisville Metro planning and design policies, the housing, environmental policies of various sorts, brownfields, redevelopment policies, and so forth. And it's not an exhaustive list, but it is that we've got a set of 8 policy areas that we're looking at using a resilience justice framework to sort of say, what reforms to these policies could improve community or neighborhood resilience in a way that is equitable, in a way that addresses the unequal vulnerabilities, the fact that some neighborhoods have more vulnerabilities than others. And so that's sort of the fourth piece that we will be producing out of this. I actually think that we're going to do a fifth piece, which is really sort of a 1 to 2 page flyer style document that community residents who care about Mill Creek and want to sort of advance the health of Mill Creek could use, that are all based in what people in the community are saying. So again, sort of more of a bottom tool that they can kind of use in their organizing and engagement with the Mill Creek process. So So that's sort of the essence, and I'm going to be glad to talk about further details. I really want to give folks a chance to ask questions about what we're doing. But I do know that this is what we're doing is circulating around the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers right now. I know folks kind of, who are kind of high up in the those agencies who are really interested in this as a new way or an additional way to do watershed planning that has a more equity and resilience focus. And so that's exciting. I know there's interest in that. Our hope is to remain engaged with the Mill Creek watershed communities in the long run. And so, the Resilience Justice Project isn't going to just kind of come in and do this 1-year study and disappear. But we are also thinking as we move ahead about, how we could bring the same approach to other planning efforts. Are there ways that we could partner with other groups or entities that are doing planning to, integrate resilience, equity, and inclusive community engagement. I will say just because sometimes people ask about that possibility, kind of how it works. In order to do that, we have to be able to fund some student fellowships and to cover some portion of my time. So what we're sort of estimating is that's about $25,000 to $30,000 a year is sort of the cost of our doing this work. There's some direct cost involving some printing and photocopying and some stuff like that, mailing and stuff like that we have to, make sure that we're covering and not just putting that on the university and so forth. But that's sort of the general gist. So I'd love to answer folks' questions and give you more details about particular aspects of this if you're interested.
Thank you, Dr. Arnold.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was very informative. I did have a question that came up while you were talking about green and blue infrastructure. I know the Kentucky Division of Water has reached out to me to incorporate some more measures for green infrastructure into our hazard mitigation plan when it comes time to update that, just to sort of make some more grant funding available for those sorts of things. But you also mentioned blue infrastructure, and could you maybe talk about just sort of what that is a little bit more and sort of what measures are involved with blue infrastructure, just because I feel like it's sort of a newer term in the planning world.
Right. So I think so we sort of talk about green and blue infrastructure together as a single term. So, and it really is mostly what we think of as green infrastructure, but I think the reality is some of what's going on there is it's a little less green and a little bit more blue. And so in our, there's a lot of different publications out there, but there is sort of this trend to just to turn the phrase green infrastructure into green and blue infrastructure, because what we're talking about is restored streams. For example, bringing back stream meandering, which is better for flood management and control as opposed to the sort of straight line channels, wetlands. Are wetlands green or blue or kind of both, right? And so the wetlands are clearly important: restoration of wetlands, protection of wetlands, and so forth. Some of what we know, it's less about sort of managing environmental impacts and more about kind of building community engagement and dealing with things like good public health. But for example, water recreation projects, things like, can we, like, for example, what's been happening in Shawnee Park, where we're finally getting folks in West Louisville, to be able to get out on the Ohio River, right, with canoe launch areas and that kind of kayak launch areas and that kind of stuff. So some of that is also a key, because If people can use the green and blue infrastructure, they're more likely to support it. They're more likely to contribute to maintaining it, less likely to trash it, et cetera. But in terms of what is green and blue infrastructure, it includes trees, includes vegetation, green spaces, open spaces, wildlife corridors, wetlands, restored waterways. It's at all of the sort of biotic stormwater controls, so things like rain gardens and bioswales and that sort of thing. We have a whole kind of list that we published an article a couple of years ago, resilience, justice, and community-based green and blue infrastructure. And so I can share that with y'all if you want, but there's sort of a set of categories based on, kind of an abundant amount of research out there that list what those are. But then your other question is measures. So part of the thing is, what is it that you're trying to measure? If you're developing green and blue infrastructure to manage runoff and flood, that's a set, obviously you're going to make certain choices, but, from our perspective, from the perspective of a broader resilience outlook, you kind of need to sort of think about the co-benefits or multi-functions of green and blue infrastructure. So, how is this supporting heat mitigation? How's it supporting air pollution? How air pollution management and mitigation? How's it supporting community recreation and engagement? So one of the things that we know from the pandemic is that the more green and blue infrastructure folks had in their neighborhoods, the healthier they could adapt to the pandemic, because they weren't running all over the country to big national parks and so forth. People were we had points where gyms were closed and so on and so forth. One of the questions is, can kids get outdoors and play in nature during a time frame when people's mobility is more limited. And what we also know is that the sort of the lowest income communities, which are often also communities of color, have less transportation options, less ability to engage with green and blue infrastructure elsewhere. So there'll be folks here in Louisville that, if they want to go kind of walk along a creek, they drive out to the parklands of Floyd's Fork. There are folks for whom that's not really a reality. So are you building those kind of measures in as well, access and equity kind of measures? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's those are some of the gist. But I can also share that publication with y'all too.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to send that over to me, I can also send that out in the follow-up email for this message if folks are curious to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll send a link to it's on the Social Science Research Network, SSRN. And what you do is it downloads. You can click on it, takes you to the abstract, and there's a option to download the PDF of the article as published, and it's free. So 2 clicks, but it's it's all like copyright authorized that way, and so you can just get it for free on as a PDF that way.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other questions? Not hearing any. All right, Mr. Arnold, we appreciate that. It was very informative, and look forward to seeing that article that you've got coming towards us and looking through it. All right, with that, then we'll move on. Thank you. Have a great afternoon. All right, other business. Anything else?
Yeah, I guess I have just one sort of logistical thing for our RPC meetings. I noticed after I sent out the recent invite for this one, that it seems like our council member list is might be a little bit out of date. I think the last time we did an official update on that was something like 2018 or something, before I even took these over. So I guess sort of in the interest of keeping our council members, our council member list up to date, and making sure we have representatives on the council from all of our counties. If anybody has any, I'm not exactly sure how our council member election process works. Is it an election or is it a nomination?
So the bylaws, which have not been updated since 2017 either. So each representative for the county has to have three people from their county. The county judge appoints two, either the county judge himself, and then someone that is familiar with transportation issues, and then the planning commission actually appoints a representative for it. We have always done in the past, there's a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. And Ryan, do you know who your vice chair is? By chance?
Trying to remember, was it Judge Pollock?
I think maybe it is Judge Pollock.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like, was there one, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there an RPC meeting a while back? It might have been the first one that I did that you were out of town, and I believe he stood in, but I wasn't sure if he was officially the vice chair or if he was just sort of standing in for to take care of things. But
and he might have been. We have the past minutes, correct? So we can go back and look through those.
We do, yeah. I believe the past minutes, they seem to just list council members, and I believe you're the only one that's listed on there with your title as chair. But I'll look through some other ones and see if anyone's listed as vice chair. But yeah, I guess just as another order of business, I might be trying to work on updating that or reaching out to some of the judge executives to fill some of the vacancies in the council.
The last list that we have was one that I did in 2017 when I was here previously. So these are very outdated. So Ryan will be sending these probably to the members we know for sure are here, plus the judge executive, just to make sure that each one has, 3 representatives for the county.
Okay.
And they are the correct members.
Yeah. Now, how does does it go into detail on how the judge has to appoint members for each county, the 2 that his appointments, or
No,
is it just the judge appoints?
Just 2 appointments. So each county judge executive will be responsible for 2 appointments. One appointment is reserved for either the judge or a representative on their behalf, while the other appointment is to be filled by someone familiar with transportation issues in the county.
Okay.
And then the county's planning commission is responsible for appointing the 3rd member on the planning council.
Okay.
And that either has to be a planning commissioner themselves or a professional staff.
Gotcha.
And the appointments from the planning commission should be made annually, which I don't think we've ever done in the past.
Yeah.
But we will be electing new officers come January. So.
Correct. Yeah, I know we do those annually, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we had to have done back in January. There should have been I know we had an election.
Yeah, I'll go through our files and see if there's anything in there on that. I didn't see anything a couple weeks ago when I was poking around, but yeah, I'll keep you all updated on that though. And yeah, just kind of putting that on everybody's radar, just letting everybody know that we do seem to have some vacancies. So it'd be good to kind of make sure that our RPC is well represented. And yeah, Yeah, I guess that is sort of all the other business that I have, though. And anybody else have anything?
Anybody got any other business or announcements? All right, if not, then we'll open up the public comment period that we have to by I think our bylaws and meeting standards. So at this point, the public comment period is open. If anybody would like to speak, please unmute yourself and state your name and let us know what the nature of your business is. Okay. Seeing none or hearing none, the public comment period is closed. And then if there's no other business, then our next item would be a motion to adjourn. And I see Jim making the motion to adjourn, Jim Urban from Oldham County. And I think I see Keith over there in the corner on my screen saying he'll second that motion. So all in favor, say aye or raise your hand. And then any opposed? Hearing none or seeing none, then this meeting is adjourned. I appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of the day. And our next meeting date will be?
That will be, what is it, January 11th, I believe.
That's what it looks like. Yep. I would say
Yes,
so.
January 11th. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks, y'all. I
Well,
appreciate
then
it.
everybody have a good rest of the year too. Since we won't be seeing each other until January 11th unless we're on other meetings, but have a good holiday season and we'll see everybody January 11th. Thank you.
Bye.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thank you again, Dr. Arnold. All right.
Yep,
Everybody
thank
take care.
you.